Alrighty, so another midweek action is in the books. Well, technically, it's already in the books. It was in the books last night. Now, unlike previous time when I just basically do a review of all 13 games, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna do it just like what I used to do, where I do part one, where I look at the first 8 games, and then part two is pretty much the last 5 games. And tomorrow, of course, we'll be looking at the last 5 games, and then basically do the preview of the Saturday games because I think there's going to be matinee games that's going to be happening on Saturday, which is something we have not seen in quite some while. But that being said, let us get into the first game, which is Atlanta versus Inter Miami. So Inter Miami, obviously coming into this game, they kind of decided to put a B team in this one in the first half, and in the second half they decided to put their A team in and put Messi in this game and his friends, and that makes sense because in a midweek game like that, and especially I know obviously you want to have Messi play every single game for exposure and stuff. But obviously, I know Tata Martino knows and probably learned the lesson from last year that you can't just simply play Messi every single game, especially if there's a game in the middle of the week. But that being said, this was a game where it was kind of a very boring game in the first half, and then the second half happens. Now, in the first half, Guzan would deny Gresso from close. Not much really happened in this game, at least for the first 27 minutes. In fact, the shots were still only one apiece for the first 27 minutes. And on the game's third shot of this game, it's in the back of the net. It's David Ruiz, the one that gets the opening goal for Inter Miami to make it 1-0 in favor of Inter Miami. So again, Inter Miami showing their clinical finishing. It just does not take much. Like it also doesn't matter who is in this team. They can put their best team or even put their B team in. They still have guys that could be dangerous in front of goal. And then Ruiz was looking for another one, but he hits it right to Guzan in the 36th minute. Atlanta continue to look flat and uninspiring, and that has to be concerning if you're an Atlanta fan because again, coming into this game, I know it's against Inter Miami, but it's a team that you have good history, and knowing that you are in the fix of the playoff race to show how flat and uninspiring Atlanta look in the first half, that is a very concerning factor, and also a sign of a team that look like they're not going to make it in terms of making the playoffs this season. But we do head to halftime with Inter Miami leading 1-0, and in the second half, it does get a little bit more livened up. It starts with Negri puts one into the stands from close range, but then the 55th minute, guess what? It's Saba time again as he scored here from Amador to tie the game up at one apiece. I gotta say, Saba Lobjanitsa, he just loves scoring against Inter Miami. He was a huge factor in the game down in South Florida. He's once again in this one, though. I would also say that is one that I think Drake Calendar probably want to have back because it was kind of hit toward right toward him. You usually do not see Drake Calendar make those kind of goalkeeper being flubs, but yeah, here he did, and Atlanta would take it. The game was tied up at one apiece. It did not stay tied for long because just 4 minutes later, Campana would score on the free kick here. It took a huge deflection off the wall and goes in. I mean, that's just a sign when things are going right for you. That's gonna happen, and things are definitely going right for Inter Miami. That is getting a step closer to clinching the supporter shield, and they lead it 2-1 up to this point. Mascara did look to respond, but he missed wide, and then Guzan would deny Alba from close range. Suarez then had a shot that was clear off the line in the 83rd minute. By the way, around the 60th minute, this is when Inter Miami decided to bring in the cavalry, both Messi and all his other friends started to come into this one. But instead, in the 85th minute, Atlanta ties the game up. It's Marinchik. He finally scored his first career MLS goal from Lennon to tie the game up at two apiece, and it has to feel good for him to not only score his first career goal and also a banger too. What a goal that was for him, and that there's a lot of big expectation that you need to live up, especially the amount that Atlanta paid to get him from Atalanta. And then the post would deny Lobjanitse from close in the 88th minute. Momentum was all with Atlanta up to this point, and you just feel like they want another win against Inter Miami and really help their playoff chances. Lobjanitse then crossed it wide from close range. Guzan then denied or actually, I'm sorry, Calendar would deny Marinchik from close in the fifth minute of stoppage time. Obviously, Guzan doesn't deny his own teammate, but it was all Atlanta up to this point. Miami was holding on for dear dear life up to this point. Thankfully, they were able to hold on to get a draw in this one as it ends in a 2-2 draw. The shots in this one, 17 shots for the 12 that Miami has. Again, it really livened up in the second half. The first half was kind of a bit boring, but as I said, second half, a lot of chances. 5 shots on goal for the 7 that Inter Miami has. 3 shots off target for the 5 that Atlanta has. 7 shots on block for the 2 that Miami has. And possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Atlanta has in this one. Now, obviously, with Inter Miami dropping points and with the two teams that are closer to them, which is the two Ohio team, that is Columbus and Cincinnati getting the win. The gap does close a little bit in terms of the supporter shield standings, but let's be honest, it's not really a race. Inter Miami's pretty much got this one in the bag, and this does happen when you of course play a midweek game. You're gonna have some squad rotation, and considering the fact that they're able to they didn't lose this game, and especially against a really hungry Atlanta team that desperately need free points. I think Inter Miami will be happy to walk away with a point. I don't think you could say the same about Atlanta. Again, they need three points. Yes, they got themselves a late goal here, but you just kind of had a sense that if they really run and improve their chances to make the playoffs, especially against a team that they have good history, they need to win this, and they don't. And now you just kind of sense that this is a big miss opportunity, especially when it's a home game for them. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, speaking of missed opportunities, so in a playoff 6 pointer like this between New England and Montreal, anytime when a game ends in a draw in a playoff 6 pointer, it's a huge disappointment for both of these teams, and that's kind of is the case in this one. Now, in the first half, first shot of the game did see was or actually I'm sorry, not see was Saliba puts it high from close range in the 4th minute before Lima with New England first shot, but he puts that one wide. Kokoro then just missed on the outstretch attempt there, and I thought it was an even start to this game, and that's kind of expected. Both of these teams, they desperately need 3 points, desperately need a win to really get themselves in a good position for the playoff hunt. Bajatovic then missed wide off of deflection. The shots were 4-2 for New England early in this one, but at the end of the 24th minute, they scored the opening goal of this game. It's Bobby Wood. He loves scoring against Montreal. He definitely had a career day against Montreal in the last game. So he scored here from Miller and Heel to give New England a 1-0 lead. Heel trying to score on the score sheet himself, but he puts it wide from long range. The momentum was all with the refs up to this point. They were pressing to try to get another goal, and they do, because after Polster hits one right to Siwas, it's Bajatovic, also known as Ismail. He scored from Carlos Heel to make it 2-0 in favor of New England. And I mean, bro, this could get ugly for Montreal. I mean, this looked like it could be a repeat of that 5-0 drumming that Montreal took at home in the last meeting between both of these or at Stal Saputo between both of these teams, and it looked like it was going to be, because in the 41st minute it looked like it was 3-0 when Lucas Lagoni put the ball into the back net. Problem was the flag did not agree with him, and that actually turns out to be huge, because as we'll see what happened in the second half, Montreal kind of turned it around. Ivasic then tipped Kokoro shot over, but we do head to halftime with New England leading 2-0. In the second half, Polster would flash one wide from long range, but then in the 54th minute, Tom Pierce would score his first career MLS goal, and what a goal it is from the free kick. I mean, the audacity of him trying from that far out just completely caught everybody's surprise, even Ivasic as well. But even if Ivasic was in a good position there and was anticipated, I don't think this was going to be safe. I mean, this was hit in top bins there, and with the amount of pace and the placement that was taking in on that free kick, take about Tom Pierce in terms of getting his first career MLS goal and get one back for Montreal. And then there was a crazy sequence in the 60th minute where Siwas denied Ismail Bajatovic, but then it falls right to Carlos Hill, who tried to hit it into the empty net, but then it was clear off the line, and then it actually bounced off of Siwas, and then it was goal bound again, and then it was clear off the line for the second time. I mean, just an absolute insane kind of a moment. And again, when you look at this game, both of these teams could have easily won this game if they just had some luck and some charm that go their way. Yeah, the scoreline could have been much more different, and both of these teams could have got a much needed 3 points to help their playoff chances. Siwas then denied Wood from close. New England was definitely pressing back to try to restore that 2-goal lead. Ivasic would then deny Piet from close, but then in the 69th minute, Nathan Saliba would score from George Campbell to tie the game up at two apiece, and then Marshall Ruddy trying to make it 3-2 in favor of Montreal. Remember, he's now playing for Montreal after spending a long time with TFC and from the academy, but he flashed one wide off the deflection before Bajatovic hits the side netting from close range. You can sense that both of these teams desperately need 3 points. I mean, both of these teams was pushing hard to try to get the lead. He'll try to do so, but he puts it wide from close range before Siwas would deny Veroni from close in the 85th minute. But in the end, it ends honors even in a game where both of these teams need to get a win to help their playoff races. Neither of them were able to do so. Shots in his one, 17 shots with a 14 that Montreal had, 6 shots on goal for the set that New England has, 5 shots off target with a 4 that Montreal has, 4 shots on his block with a 6 that New England has, and possession wise 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Montreal has in this game. And like I said, both of these teams are not going to be happy with this result. I mean, for New England, throwing a 2-0 lead is inexplicable, especially against Montreal. And then for Montreal, yes, I know they did came back from a 2-0 deficit, but they had their chances in this one to maybe win this game as well and get some revenge against New England after they got absolutely thumped by the Revs just a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, we'll see how this resort is gonna turn out. Again, both of these teams does get a point, but how many times I've said before, draws does not get you into the playoffs. Wins will actually get you in the playoffs, and both of these teams desperately need it, and they don't get it in this game. Now, moving on in terms of the next match. Speaking of wins, one team that is trying to face for playoffs that definitely got that win is the Philadelphia Union. And what's kind of interesting about this game is as lopsided as the scoreline is, it was actually closer than what people think it is, and that NYCFC actually had their fair amount of chances in this one, but unfortunately, they meet this guy called Andrew Rake, who turns out that he decided to have a very Andre Blake kind of performance against NYCFC. And then not to mention NYCFC, I mean, they made so many mistakes at the back, and even go the goalkeeper Matt Freeze. I don't know if he was a double agent in this one because he probably had his worst game in this one against his former team. Now, early on in the first half, 2 minutes in, the first shot of the game did see Sands miss wide from close range. Unsurprisingly, NYCFC had most of the possession, but instead, it's the Union that gets the opening goal of this game. And guess who? It's that man again, Ty Baribo, a free score this season for the Union. He scored from Bizo to give the Union a 1-0 lead. Freeze did get a hand to it. I think maybe he could have done a little bit better, but just could not keep this one out. And then Burrito was looking to try to get another one, but he missed wide off of a deflection. But then in the 25th minute, Mikael Ruru would score from Baribo to make it 2-0 in favor of the Union, and it was just an absolute gift. This one, I mean, just came off of a rare WTF turnover from Thiago Martins. I mean, Thiago Martins is one of the most solid defenders in this league, but here he just coughed the ball up in almost near his own box, and he was paid. He was punished in a big way. And just like that, the Union were leading 2-0 up to this game. Parks then looked to respond, so he hits it right to Rake. But then in the 32nd minute, Daniel Gastek would make it 3-0 in favor of the Union. And yeah, Matt Freese, I mean, this is definitely not a moment he want to see again. I mean, this was just a ball that comes to him easily should have been caught, but he fumbled it, and it dropped right into the path of Daniel Gastek, who said, "Thank you very much. I'm just going to slot this one in for one of the easiest goals I'll score in my career." And yeah, just like that, the Union were up 3-0, and two of those three goals are really just bad defensive mistake and just an absolute goalkeeping howler there from Matt Freeze. Rodriguez did look to respond, but he missed way high in the 41st minute. But then in the first minute stoppage time, Alonso Martinez would score from Kevin O'Toole to make it 3-1 make it 3-1 up to this point. So, and what's kind of interesting is that this was actually the last kick of the game. So, Alonso Martinez this season with NYCFC already scored a goal early in the game, like in the first 20 seconds. Now he scored a goal in the last kick of the first half. So, kind of an interesting stat, but that definitely gave NYCFC some life heading into the second half. Unfortunately, well, actually, that definitely gives them some life, and then this is when they really start to put the pressure on the Union, and this is where the Andrew Rick show begins. So in the second half, O'Toole would have a shot that was deflected and goes wide as NYCFC was on the front foot. They were looking to try to get another one back. Rodriguez would hit one right to Rick before Rick would deny Eilnish from close range. Rick definitely doing his best Blake impression in this one. He was making some big save in this one to keep this 2-goal lead. And he also got help from the woodwork too, as King Parks, which struck the post on a 1v1. Yeah, King Parks was absolutely snake bin in this game, missing some big chances. I even wrote he's getting the Moonsap Bakra treatment, just completely snake bin in this one. And then Haria almost scored an own goal here, but somehow in some way Rick was able to save this one off the line there. I have no idea how he was able to save that one off the line. And then Bakra who hits one right to Rick in the 70th minute, and you just kind of had a sense that with all the pressure that NYCFC putting, they were gonna get that goal back and make this an interesting game, right? Well, no. Instead, in the 74th minute, the Union got the free goal lead back. It's Jacob Glesnes. He scored from Wagner here to make it 4-1 in favor of the Union. And then in the 88th minute, they put the cherry on the top as Jesus Bueno would score from Sullivan to make it 5-1 in favor of the Union. And yeah, that is the final score of this game. Again, it was not as one-sided as you think it is, but it's just one of those games where one team was just so clinical and also punishing their opposition of every mistake that they made, and one team just meet Andrew Rick for the first time, and that, I know it's early to say, but once Andre Blake does eventually hang it up, looks like the Union might have a good goalkeeper lineup right in their system, because Andrew Rick, coming from the Union Academy, played a couple of games with Union too as well, and he definitely had a career game, and had a game that might be a beginning of a bright future in front of him too. But the shots in this one, again, it just shows you how the lopsided scoreline does not represent the chances that both of these teams has. I mean, the NYCFC had double the amount of chances the Union had, 26 of them compared to just 12 that the Union has. NYCFC actually had more shots on goal, 9 shots on goal for the 7 that the Union has, 2 shots off target with the 7 that NYCFC had, 9 shots on his block for the 3 that the Union has, and possession wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession the Union has in this game. And also, I know that the Union, of course, have had NYCFC numbers, so I think in some way you probably shouldn't be surprised at the fact that the Union is able to pull off a big result like that. But also, it's just the fact that, again, if you didn't watch this game, you would have not guessed it, that it was actually much more tighter than the 5-1 scoreline would indicate. But nevertheless, huge win for the Philadelphia Union. And, they play well in the last game against Inter Miami on a losing cause. And I even said that they can play like that in their future game. There's no doubt that they're going to get the win. And they did exactly that in this game. And also kind of getting help from NYCFC making some crucial mistake, and also help thanking double agent Matt Freeze in terms of gifting them one of the goal as well. But for NYCFC, oh boy, there is a huge concern right now. In fact, I think both New York team, there's got to be a lot of concern heading into the playoffs, because neither of them has looked really good heading into the playoffs, and do not be surprised, it could be one and done for both of these New York team, considering the fact that it looked like both of them were looking like they're in a good shape not long ago. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Columbus and Toronto FC. So this is why I said in the preview why TFC getting that big win against Austin would really help them, because, as I said, coming into this game against the defending MLS Cup champion, you kind of had a feeling that Columbus was going to get the wins. And even though this was a game where I don't think Toronto played that badly in this one, how many times I've said before, when you're playing against a superior team, you have to take advantage of your chances, because if you don't, it's going to come back to haunt you. And it started in the 7th minute when the post denied Benedeski, as that was the game first shot, and Insigne would hit one right to Schulte, as again, it was a positive start for Toronto. They were looking for the opening goal. Schulte would then deny Insigne from close range. 30 minutes in, Columbus have still yet to register a shot. Now, keep in mind, there was no Cucho Hernandez, at least in the first half. It was pretty much like a crew 2 team in this one, but still, no shots on at all for the first 30 minutes. That is a very rare occurrence for a Wilfred Nancy side this deep into this game. The first shot for Columbus did happen in the 35th minute, as Herrera hits one right to Johnson before Insigne would hits one right to Schulte. And yeah, again, a positive half for Toronto, but the problem was the scoreboard still red goose egg, and you just kind of had a sense that when you don't punish Columbus when you're getting the chances, yeah, it's going to come back to haunt TFC, and it did in the second half. It started with Soswatsky hits one right to Johnson, but then in the 51st minute, guess who? It's Cucho Hernandez. He scored from Russell Rowe to make it 1-0 in favor of Columbus. It was a great goal there from Cucho, but also, yeah, you know that guy that is putting MVP kind of number this season? Yeah, you may want to close him down because the fact that there was no closing down whatsoever from that TFC back line on Cucho Hernandez, I mean, yeah, they almost like they were asking to give up a goal in this one. You just cannot leave Cucho Hernandez with that much space and not expect the ball to go into your own net there. But yeah, that made it 1-0 in favor of Columbus. Cucho then looked for another, but he was denied by Johnson before Kerr would put one into the stands from off of a deflection. But then in the 76th minute, Andres Herrera would score from Cucho and Jones to make it 2-0 in favor of Columbus. I think that's Herrera's first goal for the Columbus crew. Champos did look for a third, but he missed wide there. And then Cucho was in on goal here, and this was a rare occurrence where whenever you see Cucho is in on goal, he's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. It's always going to be in the back net. But here he missed that one wide, which again very rare to see that. Of course has happened, but there was no doubt that Columbus were not done. They were pressing for a third goal here. Not big surprise because that's kind of how Wilfred Nancy's side is. They do not stop even if they're leading comfortable. They're just going to keep going time again. Just keep gassing you even if the game is out of reach. And then Jackson puts it wide from close in the first man stoppage time. But yeah, in the end, Columbus with a 2-0 win in this one. The shots in this one, 7 shots for the 10 that TFC had, 3 shots on goal for the 4 that Columbus had. Both teams had 2 shots off target, 4 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Columbus had, and possession-wise, 50% possession for both of these teams. And like I said, this actually was a pretty good game that TFC put against Columbus. But if there's one thing we know when you play against Columbus, it doesn't matter how good a game you are. You have to bury those chances when it's given because if you don't, you're gonna end up on the losing side pretty much almost every single time. With that being said, I am now going to change boards and look at the last fourth game to finish up the review of part one of this midweek action of match week number 33. So moving on, in the next one, we got Orlando and Charlotte FC, and just like the last game where it was pretty predictable who was going to win the game, and the team that everybody predicted is going to win the game did win it. This was the same thing. I mean, everybody knew that Orlando was probably going to get the win, even though at times I know this season they have struggled at home. They're playing against a Charlotte team that, yeah, there's that definitely started to fall off the cliff. But unlike the Toronto versus Columbus game, I mean, this was not really a contest. In fact, this was kind of a boring game in many ways. I mean, if you just erase the goal, this would have been probably right up there as one of the most boring game we've seen this season. Now, in the first half, Kalina would deny Cartagena from close range as the shots were only 1-0 early in this one, with not much happening whatsoever. Torres would puts it wide from close range before Ajiman with Charlotte for a shot, but he hits it right to Galese. That would actually be only 1 of 4 shots that Charlotte would register for the whole game. In fact, the second of those came just 10 minutes later when Ream heads it wide from close range, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. It didn't stay scoreless for long in the second half because 7 minutes into the second half, Orlando takes the lead, and guess who? It's Facu Torres. It's no surprise that Orlando has started getting hot when Facu Torres is scoring. I mean, this is a guy that early in the season he looked like he was a shell of his old self. Something tells me in the middle of the season, once he finally scored a goal, he has definitely rediscovered his good form that he has doing all his year with Orlando City because he scored here from Ojeda and Angulo to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando. He then looked for a second one not long after, but was denied by Kalina. We then go for a period where not much really happened, and Charlotte attacking struggle from their last couple of games were all there to be seen. I mean, there was just nothing going for Charlotte going for, and that has to be a huge concern if you're Dean Smith and the rest of this team. But in the 88th minute, they get their third of what would be only 4 shot in this game when Junior Urso would puts it wide from close range. Imagine if Junior Urso would tie the game up at 1 apiece. What a story that would have been, and what a weird kind of reaction you would have if you're an Orlando City fan because Junior Urso he is very well loved in the Orlando City fan base, still well loved even though he doesn't play for him, and that would be kind of a I mean, I would assume Junior Urso would not do his signature bear claw celebration. He definitely would not celebrate against the team that again a lot of Orlando City fans are still truly love Junior Urso and definitely miss him being a Lions player. But That being said, in the 89th minute, Orlando basically shut up shop as Duncan McGuire would score from Luis Muriel and Galese to make it 2-0 in favor of Orlando, and it was just a lightning counterattack to turn the lights out in Orlando. And yeah, in the end, Orlando gets an easy win. Shots in this one, 12 shots for the four that Charlotte had, 2 shots on goal for the four that Orlando City had. Both team had 2 shots that was off target, 6 shots that was blocked for the none that Charlotte has, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Charlotte has it in this one. And I know we're not into the playoffs just yet, and I know this might be premature to say, but I really think these first round matchup in the East is going to be pretty lopsided because when you look at the Eastern Conference and some of these teams that are going to make the playoffs, there's really the haves and have-nots. I mean, the haves are usually the ones that are in the top three. The have-nots are kind of like near the middle and in the bottom because from I really think from four all the way down, maybe except for Orlando City. Orlando City, I think, is the only team out of those bunch. So I do legitimately think that they have a shot to go pretty far. But other than that, I mean, you look at some of these teams that are very mediocre right now, and that I just don't think they have enough to really go deep, and it could be a very lopsided affair compared to the likes of Inter Miami and those two Ohio team that probably will put a beat down on some of these lower tier team in the first round. But again, there's a reason why I said it's premature because it is still very early to say, but I do think that if Charlotte does make it to the playoffs, it's probably going to be a one and done for them because it feels like feel like the lack of talent on this team has finally caught up to him, and as much miracle that Dean Smith has worked with this team, yeah, it has not gone so well in these last month or two. They've really fallen off the cliff. Now, moving on in terms of the next match is Vancouver and the Houston Dynamo. So for Vancouver, as I mentioned, this is the beginning of a really tough stretch that they have against some really good team, and I said before that they really need to get some result or even wins against these teams to prove that they are legitimate team in the playoffs. And after this game, I mean, I don't know if this game kind of proves that. And in many ways, I would say this was kind of an even game between both of these teams. Now, early on, there was chaos in the box straight away, 3 minutes in, and it saw Sevchenko shot blocked the way there. Kovacic then looked like he got the opening goal for the Dynamo, but the flag did not agree with him as the goal was disallowed for offside. There was no doubt the Dynamo were on the front foot. They were pressing early for the lead. Goal would then had the Whitecaps first shot, but he hits it right to Clark before Uvik would hit it right to Clark in the 15th minute, and then he denied Pico from close in the 24th. As after a slow start, I thought Vancouver got into this game and started to look for the opening goal, and this is again from now on and then on, it started to become very back and forth. Ponce then puts it wide from close, and then a penalty was given to the Dynamo in the second minute of stoppage time. They go to VAR to see whether or not Evite did bring down Bassi in the box. He did, so a penalty was given to the Dynamo. Now, coming into this game, Takaoka has done a really good job from the penalty spot. I think he has saved like all three penalty coming into to this game. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to save this one, though he came close too. I mean, he actually got a hand to Ezekiel Ponce pre-kick, but the face basically beats him there. And yeah, the Dynamo take a 1-0 lead right on the stroke of halftime. In the second half, he was looking for another Ezekiel Ponce, but his shot was deflected wide, and then Laborda on the other end heads it wide on the doorstep of goal. Again, both of these teams were getting some good chances early. They were looking for that clinical second goal. Dorsey would then hits one right to Takaoka before goal would hit it right to Clark after just a WTF turnover from Coco Carrasquilla. That is a very rare statement to make. You would never see Coco Carrasquilla cough the ball away in a bad spot like that. The post then denied Sevchenko on the header in the 68th minute before Ocampo would head it wide in the back post. Again, very back and forth. There was chances for both of these teams. You just kind of had a sense eventually a goal was going to go in, and it did. In the 73rd minute, welcome back Brian White. He scored here from Pico to tie the game up at one apiece, and that's kind of the final score of this game. As for the last 17 minutes, you expect that maybe we're going to see more back and forth action, but no, it seems like both of these teams were just happy to get a point. I guess maybe both of these teams kind of ran out of gas knowing this is a midweek game. But the shots in this one, 10 shots for the 9 that Vancouver has, 4 shots on goal for the 2 that the Dynamo has. Both teams had 2 shots off target, 5 shots that was blocked for the 2 that the Whitecaps had, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession the Whitecaps has in this game. So again, for the Whitecaps needing needing a statement win. They don't really kind of get it in this one, but at least they kept it close, and that maybe you could say that this could be an example that they could keep up against some of these playoff teams, because that's been the one big concern, and this is why a lot of people are saying maybe Vancouver is kind of considered frauds, and a team that are just kind of feast on a easy schedule to get them in a good spot like this. But with them doing well in this game, maybe that kind of proves people wrong, that they can actually do something in the playoffs. Remember, this team has not won a playoff game in a very long time, and there's no doubt that if they do make it to playoffs, and the goal is not just to make it to the playoff, they want to at least win a a series. And for the Dynamo, I mean, right now they're just kind of trying to survive until Hector Herrera back in this team. That loss that that loss that they suffered him from last game, that really hurts this Dynamo attack, and it kind of was shown in this game as well. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, and this is probably the most surprising result of the night. So, yeah, I mean, who saw this coming? The fact that Sporting KC just put a beat down on Colorado. I mean, all season long, I mentioned how the Rapids, in pretty much almost all their games, even in some of the games where they lost badly, they looked competitive in some of these games. This was not one of those games. I mean, this was just a beatdown that Sporting KC has put on Colorado, and Sporting KC looked like in this game looked like they were their old self in this one, and now all of a sudden, I know they're still very far away from the playoffs, but they play against Minnesota in the next game, and Minnesota is the ninth place team. That team that can is the last team to make it into playoffs out of the West, and if they can get a win in their weekend's matchup, who knows what could happen. But early on, the first shot of the game did see Agata puts it wide from close before Bassett would hits one right to post jam. But then in the 8th minute, Alan Polito will gets on the score sheet. It's almost like after Alan Polito got a goal not long ago for the Sporting KC side. It feels like he's been revitalized, and that's got to be great news if you're Sporting KC. But he scored here to make it 1-0 in favor of the host. He then looked for another one, but he missed wide in the 15th minute before Rodriguez would flash one wide from long range. Sporting was definitely feeling it early in this one. They were pressing to get another goal. On the other end, Maxo would hit it wide from close range before Harris would hit one right to post game. Stefan then tips one over from a free foot shot before the post would deny Agata from the corner. Yeah, Agata was kind of snake bitten in this one. But you know who was not? Well, actually, uh, as I'll mention, who else is not snake bitten in this? Yeah, it's Alan Polito. Stefan then denied Shelton from close range. Well, actually, speaking of who is snake bitten, yeah, Kyrie Shelton is still snake bitten up to this point. But we do head to halftime with Sporting KC leading 1-0 in this game. In the second half, Edwards would enter wide from the corner, but then the 49th minute, it's that man again, Alan Polito, scoring for the second time in this game. And yeah, that was not great defending for the Rapids. I even wrote he's definitely back, but definitely not the Rapids defense, because the fact that Polito just completely cooked that back line and just lead through a couple of defenders. I mean, that is just vintage Alan Polito there. And just like that, Sporting KC made it 2-0. He didn't go for a hattie, but was denied by Stefan in the 53rd minute. And then Stefan denied Ndembe from close range. Who is this Sporting KC side? This does not look like a Sporting KC side that has struggled this season. And I'm pretty sure Sporting KC fans are probably asking the same thing. Like, did I just step in a way back machine when this team used to be one of the dominant force in the West? Because yeah, they absolutely whipped this Colorado team that, for the last month or so, I've already always mentioned the resiliency that this Rapids team that Chris Armas preached. I mean, it was nowhere to be shown in this game whatsoever. Sorry, they were just getting absolutely pummeled in this game, almost similar to what we saw last season as well, when they at times they had these kind of games in their balance. But in the 56th minute, Basson would flash one wide from close before Afrifa flash one wide from close as well. Rodriguez then hits it right to Stefan. It's just one-way traffic up to this point. But the question is, can Sporting KC get a third goal? Because it's still 2-0. Well, they do. It's Eric Tommy. He scored from Agata and Sharawi to make it 3-0 in favor of Sporting KC. It took a slight deflection as well. Colorado does get one back. Michael Edwards get his first career MLS goal from Rosenberry, and yeah, not great set piece defending there from Sporting KC whatsoever. But the good news is they do restore the free goal lead not long after, as Eric Tommy would score on the score sheet again. He scored from Sharawi to make it 4-1 in favor of SKC, and yeah, in the end, I mean, I don't think anyone saw this coming with the way how Colorado was red hot coming in to this game. Sporting KC obviously is not, and they put a beat down against the Rapids. Something that I don't say. This is something I don't think I've said a lot this season with this Colorado Rapids team. And the stats shows 31 shots for the six that the Rapids had, 3 shots on goal for the 9 that Sporting KC had, 6 shots off target for the 2 that the Rapids had, no shots that was blocked for the 13 that Sporting KC had, and possession wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that the Rapids has in this game. And yeah, again, like I said about Sporting KC, they can win against Minnesota. I think they of course pull within 5 points of them. Now, obviously, they still have to pass those two Texas team, but yeah, maybe just maybe they might still have a slim chance of making the playoffs. But time is definitely running out too, and it's not in their favor for the fact that they also have played the most game out of all the team in the West. I mean, they only have 4 games left in the season, and depending on the Minnesota resort, they still have to make five points in the last 3 games. That's still a lot to ask, but if this is a resort to get a really late playoff push, who knows? Maybe Sporting KC could sneak it in on the final day. But again, just I didn't see this coming with the way how the Rapids just getting absolutely mold in this game. And if you're a Rapids fan, you hope that this is just an outlier. I mean, every team does have these kind of games as well, and they just better hope it's an outlier and it's not a repeating factor in the next game as well. Now, moving on in terms of the next match. So speaking of Minnesota, so they play against Cincinnati in this game, and this is a game that pretty much should show that Minnesota is not ready when it comes to competing against some of these best teams. And I knew that was the case. Though I will say this, I didn't think they played bad in this game against Cincinnati. The problem I think in this game for Minnesota is well, there's a couple of issues. One issue is that remember how during this summer transfer window, while they definitely boosted the attack, the one thing that I really wish this team would have done that really can get this team at least maybe to be a contender in the West is a DP level number 6 and a legitimate top 5 number 6 in this team, because it is pretty clear that the biggest weakness of this team doing this bad run is the defensive midfield. The defensive midfield has absolutely collapsed for this team, and in this game when you see some of the goals that Cincinnati have scored, it was because of the fact that the midfield and defense just not doing their job. But like I said, I do think that they play a good game in this one, and they kind of give Cincinnati all they can handle at least late in this game as well. Now in the first half, Acosta tried to chip the keeper, but he missed this one high here. Lucho Acosta was kind of feeling like his old self a little bit, although the goal scoring is still not there. Again, he's still trying to get himself back to match fitness. When he does, yeah, look out. You do not want to face an MVP level match fitness Lucho Acosta in the playoffs. But there was no doubt that I thought early on the Cincy press was very effective, and the Loons were having a lot of trouble playing out. They were turning the ball over way too much in their own half. So Yoboa would hit one right to Sautano. The shots were only one apiece early in this game. And then the post would deny Yoboa from close in the 17th minute. I've been very impressed with Calvin Yoboa and the impact he has, and that once again he would get on the score sheet in this one. If only I wish he can get on the score sheet more from open play as well, because pretty much most of the goal except one of them that came from the penalty spot. And then Joaquin Pereira was in on goal here, but he hits this one right to Sautana. Yeah, when I saw that, I immediately wrote, "Oh, it's gonna be one of those games, isn't it, for the Loons at Allianz, isn't it?" I've seen this before when they have missed big chances game or time after time, and that it seems like they're probably gonna go on the losing end, because that is one that Joaquin Pereira would want to have back. And in many ways, in that moment, Pereira should have either chipped the keeper or he should have just played right to Longwane, because Longwane was wide open. That would have been an empty net to shoot if he saw that. And for a guy that is known to be a playmaker, I would assume he would just pass the ball to Longwane, and that should have been 1-0 for Minnesota. And again, how many times I've also said, when you face against good team like Cincinnati, who's second in the East, you have to bury those chances or it's going to come back to haunt you. Dane Sinclair then denied Awazim on the header. So then denied Longwane on the other end from close range. And then Dane Sinclair denied Kubo from close, as both of these teams were getting some good chances. But the question is, who can get the opening goal here? And then the referee got in the way after Pereira looked like he was in on goal again here. Again, this is I think the second time where it was a defending corner for Minnesota. They were able to get there, and then all of a sudden they go on the other way. I mean, Cincinnati was almost having Quakes kind of level moment of having a attacking set piece turned out to be a goal that they conceded. And again, the referee kind of saved them in this moment as well. Though I will say that Cincinnati was also not happy about this because it feels like the referee, if he didn't get a win in this, Lucho Acosta would have had acres of space to either shoot the ball or find his teammate to make it 1-0. So yeah, I can understand why both team were very upset about it. But what is not upset for Cincinnati is what happened in the third minute because they would score here as Yaya Kubo. He had a really good game in this one. He scored from Awazim to make it 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati. And then Dane Sinclair denied Acosta from close. Defending seems like it was optional for the Loons. There was just way too much space. There was so many times I saw Lucho Acosta got so much space to operate and had a free range to shoot. Yeah, you can't do that and expect to win against Cincinnati. And you know what you can also do against Cincinnati, and that of course is letting Lucas Oriano through on goal because here he went in on goal and he scored from Kubo and Murphy. It was a beautiful ball play from Yaya Kubo here. And yeah, that made it 2-0 in favor of Cincinnati, and that also is a backbreaker too because that came right near the end of the half. If Minnesota would have had to halftime 1-0 down despite they were not playing well, maybe they would have had a chance in the second half. In fact, in the second half, they did get a lifeline because a penalty was given to the Loons as VAR deemed that Oriano foul Sun Bin with a high boot there. Yeah, that's very debatable, but I guess maybe because of the fact that Sun Bin had that one and then the high boot kind of connect Sun Bin that maybe that's considered in dangers of an opponent. I mean, I don't blame Cincinnati fans being very upset about this call because it just feels like it's one where both players kind of trying to get it, the attack or the defending player trying to hype it to clear it and didn't quite get to it. But anyway, Yeboah steps up to take the penalty. You know he's not gonna miss. He hasn't missed so far for Minnesota, and he didn't here. So that made it 2-1 in this one. Definitely gave some life and get the crowd back into it at Allianz Field. Though Acosta did look to respond, but he missed wide, and that came off of a bad giveaway from the Loons. Yeah, you also can't do that against Cincinnati and expect to get away with it, and Minnesota was very lucky they got away with one there. Rosales then puts it high from long range, and I also thought it just looked too comfortable for Cincinnati. Again, the pushback from Minnesota was just not there up to this point. Eventually, it did show though. Diaz would then hits it into the stands in the 82nd minute before Trap would also hits one of the stands because of course that is the case. Yeah, Minnesota started getting some chances, but most of these chances haven't came close to our net. That all changed in the 89th minute when the post denied Timu Puki from close range in the 89th minute. Now I know some Minnesota fans would say, well, why can't Timu Puki come straight in? He looked like an instant impact. Remember, he can't go the full 90 minutes. I do think that now putting him as a substitute row is a good idea, though I do wish that Eric Ramsey maybe used the substitution a little bit earlier because you kind of saw that when those attacking sub came in, it made a huge impact to this Minnesota attack. Diaz then had a shot that was deflected and goes high before Pookie hit a volley that was so well hit that if it wasn't for Salentano with an incredible save, in fact, it's not just denied by Salentano, he got robbed by Salentano of an incredible save. That would have been a 2-2 game. Then late in this game, this is where we had the a big controversy late in this game where there was a huge shout for a handball and a penalty for Minnesota not given, and they only gave one replay in terms of that. I think it's Dato Valenzuela, the one that might have handball in the box, and again they only show one replay. I mean, I can definitely understand why Loons fans are upset about that. I mean, when I look at it in that one replay, I can definitely see that maybe that should have been called as a penalty. But again, it feels like up at that point, it feels like the referee and the VAR crew just they want to go home up to this point. So yeah, in the end, Cincinnati they win 2-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 14 shots with 11 that Cincinnati has. Both team had 5 shots on goal, 3 shots off target for the 4 that Cincinnati has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 3 that Minnesota has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. And yeah, for Minnesota, it's another home loss. It's got to be frustrating the fact that once again, just like last season, this team cannot win at at home. And even though I know it's against one of the best team in the East, it's always frustrating to drop 3 points in front of your home crowd. But the good news, at least for Minnesota, is that this loss doesn't really hurt them that much in terms of them getting themselves keeping in the ninth position, because pretty much every team behind them that is not named Sporting KC did not get a win this week. In fact, those two Texas teams that are the closest to of any chances of Minnesota getting challenged for the last playoff spot. We have one team. We have one team in FC Dallas getting the loss against RSL, and Austin couldn't get a win against LAFC. They got a draw, so they still have a 4 points gap. But like I said, it is still a minimum gap. And again, that next game against Sporting KC, that's gonna be huge, because if Sporting KC can win that game, then all of a sudden Sporting KC could get themselves back in the conversation as well, even though they don't have a lot of game left. And I don't have a lot of confidence that that is the case, because again, every time when Minnesota play against Sporting KC, if it's at Allianz, I would have a lot of confidence, because Minnesota has done well against Sporting KC at Allianz. The game is at Children's Mercy Park this weekend, and they have only won one time against Sporting KC at Children's Mercy Park, and it was in the playoffs. They have never beaten Sporting KC in the regular season. So yeah, I'm really hoping that that narrative maybe come to an end, and that also hoping that those two Texas teams can help us out once again by keep losing in those in their upcoming matchup. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the review of all of these games, at least part one of the review of the first 8 out of 13 games to look at. Again, tomorrow I'll do the last 5 games, and I got to do the preview too as well for the weekend action as well. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.